I do agree though that people need to look at blood glucose and insulin far more than people put on, and that it's one of those pathways that gets neglected, overlooked. Am I saying what is up, everyone? It's Russo. I hope everyone is doing well. Today's ASMR sip is 1907, 1907wire.com. Coupon code Russo. ASMR Spritz Intelligent Elephant Carbon code Russo. All other discounts in the pinned comment down below. Today's rant is going to be about what people neglect on their first cycle and or don't track, and that is fasting blood glucose. So I will have Andrew link up a blood glucose meter. If you cannot shuttle nutrients into the muscles, how can you expect to get the most out of your cycle, especially if you're using GH compounds and or start the cycle at a pretty shitty body fat? You should be checking your blood glucose before fasted in the morning as well as after your workout to see how your insulin spikes and if your pancreas is working properly. If you would start a steroid cycle at a suboptimal body fat with fasting, resting high blood glucose, you would not get the same results remotely the same as a person in optimal body fat range with good fasting blood glucose, meaning when they eat carbs and or nutrients, it's all shuttled into the muscles and rebuilds the muscles. If you have shitty fasting blood glucose, then nothing is being moved around. The pancreas is fucked up, and overall, why are you taking steroids? I do agree though that people need to look at blood glucose and insulin far more than people put on, and that it's one of those pathways that gets neglected, overlooked. Am I saying, oh, go buy Novolin R and start injecting insulin and, do all that? No, that's for super advanced users who are abusing growth hormone and already have their pancreas ultimately super strained. I'm saying you doing a basic cycle, why are you not thinking about blood glucose levels? Why are you not thinking, is my insulin firing correctly? This all goes hand in hand if you're going to recover from your workouts, if the muscles are going to get the nutrients they need, and overall if doing steroids is worth the risk to your body. Is it worth the damage you're doing? If not, if you don't have a good blood glucose level, it's probably not, and I'd rather see you get in shape before. So not only is starting a cycle at a bad body fat not a good idea because of aromatization to estrogen, meaning you'll have way more estrogen conversion than someone who starts at a good body fat, the major thing is the blood glucose, the pancreas won't work right, you won't have a natural insulin response, and overall insulin's the most anabolic compound in the body, and it's the ultimate way to move nutrients into the muscles. So I feel like that's like one of those key little hidden things that people don't think about. If you're waking up with a fasting blood glucose level of 80 and above, then I would get that checked out with GDAs. Gorilla Mind and Enhance both make a GDA. Metformin's a bit overkill, but you could do metformin if it's chronically high and you're pre-diabetic or diabetic. But if you're not getting that under control, every time you eat, you're just going to get fat, and it doesn't matter that you're on steroids or not. Nothing is moving in the right direction as far as building muscle, the whole point of taking the risk of doing steroids. So if you don't understand that, then it's just one of those things I see and I didn't really even think about when I was younger, and I paid that price with MK677 a lot. I'd probably walked around with stupid high fasting blood glucose. I would eat, the food wouldn't go in my muscles. I would just get fatter and fatter and fatter on 677, and 677 has that long half-life, so my blood glucose levels would be chronically elevated all day, probably stress the fuck out of my pancreas. But most importantly, I was taking tremendous risks with my health, and I left a lot of gains on the table when I could have just went to Walmart, pulled my blood glucose in the morning, saw that it was 110, took GDA glucose disposal agents, lowered my MK677 dose, got my blood glucose level back to 80. Then next time I eat, my muscles would feel out, I would feel full again, I would get normal pumps again, and I would have harm mitigated that issue. That's a stupid thing that I did did when I was younger and I regret, and the insulin pathway always scared me. I was always scared of insulin, Andrew, even though like 12-year-olds who are diabetic their entire life are injecting insulin. Bodybuilding insulin always scared me. I never even looked and read into insulin until later in my PED career because I thought like, oh, insulin's only for people who are using tons of growth hormone. I never even looked at the mechanism of how important insulin is in the basics. This is one of those things that you got to get a grip on immediately. And the cool thing is it's super easy to check your fasting blood glucose. I have 2 monitors upstairs. You just prick your finger, drop a blood, thing tells you, reads it. If it's above 80, you gotta do something about it. If it's 80 or below, perfect. You can have your meal. Your insulin response is going to be normal. You're not going to become a fat fuck. When you add in any GH related product, you are now fucking with the insulin growth hormone pendulum. They don't like to exist at the same time. And your education of managing fasting blood glucose without anything being fucked around with in that pathway of growth hormone will make it easier when you add in something growth hormone related to stay on top of that, thus resulting in harm mitigation of side effects. I will see you guys in my next video.